All right. DiceCasters, yo. It's time to go and see the show.
Yeah. Sure.
I'm Blake.
James.
And we're coming back at you with our mega general rules, part 2. So I think if we want to pick up where we're going off, we're just looking at the standard D&D 3 point, or not 3 point, just 5, just the 5 part or character sheet. So if I'm just looking at it, class makes sense. No background on it. The race, we're gonna reskin that as the frame type. There's alignment that doesn't matter for your frame. Experience points cost, we're just gonna cross out and we're gonna say resource. So that's just so you can keep track of how many resources you have.
Do you think we need a recap in the second video?
Nah.
Okay.
I'm just literally like looking through on this. Inspiration, you'll use that you'll get that per character. So like if there is a bard frame or a bard mega, it'll go onto it goes for your character.
Yeah.
As opposed to your frame, because so that way, if for whatever reason your character has to quick eject and jump into another frame, he can carry that.
Yeah.
Make sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Proficiency bonus, that'll go based off of what level of what your highest level of frame kit you have on. So whatever the high, if you have like a 5th level barbarian, you'll have that level of proficiency with it.
Okay.
All the saving throws make sense.
We're using the player saving throws.
No, that's all based on the megas. Do any of them not make sense for it? Because we'll have this basically, still just slice that right in half. The core will basically.
I could see how some things can be player influenced, like perception.
Skills wise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what we were wondering. So for like acrobatics, that's basically only going to be the basically if there's an X by it, that's things that only
that's what we said. Like
only the mega
marked
can do.
Skills only mechs can perform.
And like what we were saying was the perception was basically you can only see so much within the walls of your mega. If your dude has an awesome perception and he knows that he's not being able to see the way he wants to see, he can just open up the cockpit and look out, and maybe he'll spot something he couldn't through the mega.
Yeah. Okay. Then maybe just use the mechs.
And then for saving throws, just use the megas based off of that.
Should we come up with a intelligence-based skill to give intelligence a use?
I
like hacking or
no.
Okay.
Because I still want to keep it. It's very magical in nature as opposed to it being super technological based. Like I'm thinking at best this is Eberron. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay.
Were you thinking of anything else for skills?
I mean, like repair could be a skill instead of medicine.
Okay. But then does that go for your mega?
I think that'd be a player's, or it could be a player skill unless you have that skill with your mech. Because like the cleric mechs are repairing other mechs with their own processes.
Oh yeah, and because there are certain backgrounds and such that you get with, and I think we could probably create a few of our own backgrounds later on, but there are a few backgrounds already in the game that give you like tools and such that I think if you say that your character already has those tools, that would probably be a thing that would allow you to do some repairs to your mega.
Or we can even do like the tool skill or something like that, or like like the skills in 3,
Mhm.
where you can choose like a not profession. Like basically, we can just do like a tool skill, pretty much.
Sure. But, I mean, then we have to figure out what classes would give you that skill.
Yeah.
We'd have to, like, decide which ones do and do not give
I
you
kind of
that.
like the idea of having a repair.
Well, speaking of repair, hit dice. And you use short rests and such for that. How do we reflavor that to make sense with a giant robot? I
think it'd be way easier to keep everything 1-to-1, but you're just telling everyone that it's upscaled.
Well, yeah. I'm, like, more or less I was saying, like, what's the reflavor? Like, what is my giant robot taking a rest and using its hit dice? The thing I was initially thinking was hit drone or healing drones.
Healing drones?
Yeah, 1d8.
You could have the healing drones. Well, that'd be like, why can't they just heal you like mid-battle?
You can, yeah, exactly. I was gonna say it just takes too long. It takes 5 minutes for them to work.
Or you don't want them to get damaged or something. Because
you basically have to take those back in and restock them, and I don't know, you basically sit there and recharge off of the core in some way, and that's how they're
solar charged.
I was gonna say solar. I was gonna say that, but I'm like, what if we're doing an Underdark mission?
Yeah. So.
But I was gonna say basically they pop off of the core.
I don't know. I picture like making. I mean, you could go that way.
But I
picture just making repairs on your robot during your rest. That's why it takes time.
And I was gonna say, where did those resources come from to make those healings?
I mean, people might just have to bring resources with them.
So then, are we gonna make it cost something to actually heal them?
Yeah.
Exactly. So here's actually what my thought was. Now that we've been talking about the cores being such a magically influenced thing, that it basically you have your thing sit there and like it just sits there for a minute, and like as it sits there, it basically is being magically like healed in some way. Like obviously your guy has to do something in order to, like, he does have to sit there and repair it in at least some meaningful way. Like he has to put two pieces of metal together, but they will re-weld themselves.
Yeah, you could say basically like the core kind of cauterizes the pieces of metal that you shape together,
right?
Just to make it a cohesive unit. So yeah,
and I think it could just be kind of as easy as that. Like its constitution is how well it already did not have that happen, or something like that.
That can go into why you can't take it out. Also, is because they're like fused. Like
perfect.
It's one being. It knows the frame. It knows how this thing should be
It's
modeled.
all kind of. It's got its tendrils already all the way through there, and severing that connection will fucking ruin the. It's already got.
You can
in
only
there.
do that once.
Yeah, you can't take it out, and you have a ruined core now, and now nothing else will be able to fit into that core slot.
And that's why it can heal it, because it knows the essential form that this thing should take, and wants to protect that.
Right. I thought that was going to be a lot harder, but that makes all perfect sense. Death saves. How does that work on a giant robot?
Core failing.
Oh, so it's basically sitting there going, warning.
Yeah.
And that's when you see on the inside of the cockpit, and it's just going red.
Yeah, you're like turning the car keys.
Yeah, you have the one hand on like the controls, and the other one you're sitting there typing and like clicking stuff. And like maybe it's just you screaming like, "Run this protocol, run that protocol." It could be
like you're unconscious because you have to go into the area that the core is at, and you have to do something with that, like some, I don't know.
Like if it falls unconscious like that. The thing I was gonna add kind of to this is kind of have it also like add kind of up the stakes, where if your thing has a death save, it has all 3 death saves. If it is destroyed on a 3rd death save, the thing explodes. We'll figure out what kind of damage that deals, but needless to say, if you are inside of that when that happens, your character dies. But it does have 3 rounds to pull the eject and fire out.
Yeah.
And I was going to add extra features, like extra feats that were going to cost slightly less, that are basically like quick eject, to where you can stay in there until it hits death save, and then you pull out.
Yeah, you could do that. And like the DM can do the death save, maybe, or whatever. But like they had the option to eject at any point.
If they were like, fuck this, I'm not dealing with it. Like
but
maybe
then,
it's
like the con is like if they do that and it saves, they still have to try to get back into their mech with all this shit going on around them.
Which can add so much variety to the fight.
Yeah, it can add a layer of intensity to it.
And I was going to have, like, basically, at your, like, and this is me going way further on, like, to when we're playing this game, but, like, as in, like, features you can add to your frame. Basically, all centered around the death saves. Like, you could have your first feat, which basically makes it to where it's quick eject. The first, like, you pull it on one round. Like, this is how the eject will work in the game. You pull it on one round, and then on the next round is you flying through the air, basically.
And quick eject would be like one and...
Yeah, quick eject is you pull and you're out. You're going out.
Okay, I see that.
And then maybe even at fucking... If you want to add on a... Like, you have to take those 2 feats as a prerequisite, and then at the 3rd level of feat, you get like a tiny little one. Like a tiny little vehicle, like you shoot out and your guy's in a tiny car and he drives away.
Yeah, I don't know if they should have a car.
I was thinking more like it basically goes at the same speed as like a horse.
Yeah,
it's like
I just think of like the Jetsons.
That's still thinking way out there. Attack spellcasting makes sense. Proficiencies in languages.
Just the character.
Yeah, because that has tools and like instruments, stuff like that.
That's purely character.
Purely character thing. Equipment, cash, traits and features. Like we said, that's going to go based off of. I guess the feats will go to the frame, obviously, and the traits are based off of the type of frame you buy. So what dwarf frame, whatever, which we'll call like minor frame, stuff like that. As far as personality traits, ideals, bonds, flaws, we're not, and basically all stuff from the background, not going to worry about that because that doesn't really affect the frame itself.
What about movement speed?
Movement speed will obviously be a part of the frame. Initiative is also
keeping it the same.
I wonder. I think something cool we could do is the initiative is the frame's initiative plus your initiative, maybe, or at the very least,
add like the guy's reaction time.
Yeah, because like it goes based off of how fast can the frame react and how fast can you react. So like if you're at the controls and you're not basically just sitting there going, oh shit, or if you're like sitting there ready to go, if you like slam your things, does it take a second from you to go 0 to 60?
Then the kaijus might need a boost too then to their initiative.
Right. Maybe it's I think so. I think we could probably figure out something with that where it's just like,
like they just get like a +5 or something.
Yeah, just like a basic. They always get proficiency to it or something like that.
Yeah.
I think as far there's age, eyes, that basically all the general stuff is kind of whatever backstory, additional flaws. Spellcasting. That's something we started off with. So now. So
we determined that the cores are magical.
I think a lot of it can go per class of how the spellcasting actually works.
Yeah, I mean, I just see it as like the suit having like tunnels for the core to like expend its essence out of.
Okay.
Like a wizard core has a capacity for lots of different effects, but it can only do so many effects before it's out.
Right.
Whereas the sorcerer one, it can't do a lot, but it can do a lot of what it does. If that makes sense.
Sure. I think one issue. Well, I think it will get more into this as we get into the nitty gritty of each class. But then we have to kind of think about the fact that wizards, for instance, use a spell book, and they're basically reading from their spell book, or they have to memorize what one they want to use. Yeah. So I think we'll have to, once we get into each one, we'll really figure out, iron out exactly how that works. But I think we can kind of go based off of that, kind of how each thing works. Like I'm thinking, even if we wanted to do something like arcane, or what was it, Eldritch Knight, like that probably doesn't work the same as a sorcerer. Like maybe an Eldritch Knight is just like it has a lot of extra rocket thrusters, which is like it initiates that, but it only can do that so many times. Shit like that.
Yeah. We just have to go into the nitty gritty of each classes to make that up. But I don't know. I mean, I can see cores having like and since they're magical, they can have a magical essence, in which term like mechanics might be able to get that to flow through the machine in different ways.
Right.
Because like the Elder's Knight, they can like just use spells. So there might be some things where like a rocket booster doesn't quite make sense.
Right. Exactly.
Echo.
Sorry, trying to look at all the equipment and shit. Trying to figure out what else we need to have on the basics, more or less. Armor, obviously, more or less just kind of... I don't even think we really need to necessarily reskin it. I think all of it kind of makes sense. Padded armor is just kind of like you fluff it up a little bit. You add just an extra little bits of armor to it here and there. Whereas leather is, you add a bunch of extra hide. Studded leather is basically a bunch of rivets and shit in there.
I was almost going to say a shield feels redundant, but at the same time, I can still see a giant mech using a shield.
A giant fuck-off shield.
Yeah.
Because, I mean...
It's still a shield.
I'm thinking about, like, I keep coming back to, like, Gundam. Gundam still use shields, because Gundams have swords. So they're like, fuck!
In which case, we have to come up with our guns.
I was gonna be... Oh, yeah, because isn't it... You got the DM's guide around here?
Yeah, I do.
I think they have...
Oh, yeah, they do. It's in the back.
Yeah, I'll let you look for it and actually use it.
A little bit. Oh, actually open to it.
You open right to it. Boom. How about that? You open right to it like a fucking G.
I didn't even look at my tabs that I worked so hard to get crumpled.
So it kind of... Do we want to go with...
I didn't see how much damage they...
Well, because we have Renaissance, which are like muskets and shit. Then there's more modern. There's revolvers, automatic pistols, hunting rifles, shotguns.
I think...
Or there's lasers.
I feel like lasers make more sense. Because, like, what you could do is that, like, the gun, like, connects to the mech itself. So that way, like, if you have, like, a ranged fighter, for example, like, the core, like, boosts that. Like, it helps with, like, the concussive, force behind the blast.
Right.
Or the density of it or something like that.
Sure. So I'm just...
And then give someone another option to describe spells. Or you can do both. Have laser weapons and tactile. I don't know the word for, like, when you're playing Halo.
Ballistic.
Ballistic versus laser.
I think the only thing that I would want to get rid of is no automatic, because I'm pretty sure that makes it really... That adds really a big... Let me see. A weapon has... The burst fire property can make a normal single attack target, or can spray in a 10-foot cube within its range. Each character must make a... I guess we can still make that work. I thought that was a lot more complicated.
Yeah. So you could just do single shot if you wanted to, or just make it basically like a short bow with more damage. Or longbow or whatever. What
I was initially going to say is that they basically are crossbows. That do that damage, but since I found out they actually have rules for them already, might as well. I'm thinking you can kind of do a mix of both, since they do different kinds. They don't have cost, which is kind of poop, but I think we can figure out... We'd probably figure out like what a cost could be for them.
I mean, like a ballistic... Well, so you could do two things if you wanted to. You could do resistances for one versus the other, if you don't do that much depth.
Well, the cool thing is that they already type the damage. So if you do have something that is resistant to piercing damage, or if you have something that's resistant to necrotic radiant damage.
Yeah. Okay.
And because that also would make it so that the cell is energy. The ammunition is energy cell. It could just be like energy cell. It's just like, what kind of gun is it?
Yeah, and we'd probably have to scale down the damage on that just so it's still balanced.
What do you mean by that?
Well, so like you shoot once with your laser pistol, that's 3d6. You shoot once with a short bow, and that's like 1d6.
Well, yeah, it's a sharp stick or holy blight damage.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, if you're using the monsters 1-to-1 with the same health, then they're going to get decimated. And then if you try to throw monsters that are too strong, who can just hit people in one hit, then it's going to be this really imbalanced, like, first to hit, first to kill kind of thing.
I think then that will then go to making sure that if you're playing this and you know that your characters are rocking things that at any given time they can go 3d6, 3d6, 3d6. Make sure you have something that can withstand that, or if you have, if you're gonna have, I think the easiest,
or maybe the DM can just buff up the health. You
give them max health. Make sure that there's enough enemies to where you have to keep bopping them down.
Or it can just cost like a crap load of resources.
Yeah, it just makes it cost a shitload.
Yeah,
I think that's a very valid way to make sure it doesn't get out of hand.
Yeah.
Let me see.
How much does the pistol do?
Pistol does
2d6.
2d6.
Yeah. That's not as bad
for an automatic. Oh, I'm guessing that's like, is it? Now we're just reading the book.
Yeah, so you could do like the ballistics as not as expensive as the laser.
Yeah, the ballistics definitely are going to cost less than laser.
And that kind of works the same way with magical damage reduction too. Because like most creatures are resistant to some kind of physical damage, but not a lot are resistant to like radiant or necrotic.
I think also another easy way to balance this is they don't get to add their proficiency modifier to wielding weapons.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to go that way, yeah.
Because then
but we're still kind of using the proficiency modifier and other things.
We'd have to figure out what classes get the proficiency to it, which I think would be like ranger and fighter and stuff like that.
And just all the ones that use bows, basically.
It doesn't say what the fuck, because it gives the automatic, like what an automatic pistol does. I want to know what that means. Is it going or is it just saying that it doesn't? You don't have to keep reloading it.
In their definition, they used automatic as a spray fire.
No,
so it might
that's
be
what
like
burst fire is, and they have certain things that say they can do burst fire, like the automatic rifle.
Okay, because it's like maybe it's like a blunderbuss or something.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't say. Anyway,
I think you did say something earlier where you didn't want druids in the game.
No, it's not that. I was gonna say, because I'm not intimately familiar with how druids work as a class in the game. If druids basically say a druid may not use a metal weapon, basically you probably just can't be a druid that's a pilot unless you pilot a druid mech, which then we'd have to kind of figure out exactly how a druid mech works, which I was going to say is...
I'd say transformers.
Well, yeah, I was going to say it's basically a transformer, but like I was saying, if it says that they don't want you to use metal with it or something like that...
I think that'd just be a classic class rework.
Oh, so instead of being like, oh, I put in a druid core...
It would just have to not be naturalistic. It would have to be more like transmutative or something. Or it could be maybe naturalistic, like they study like animal shapes and stuff like that. And they know the ways that machines have to move to fit these shapes. Right. But you can make the same argument that could just be, or I guess,
I think that's something we'll have to like kind of study before we get into how the druid might work as a giant robot. More
Yeah,
or
just
less.
Transformers for sure.
Definitely Transformers. Definitely goes brr, 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 gink, and then turns into a fucking bear.
Yeah, but things like animal-related things have to be redone.
Yeah, because then you'd have to be like, well, how exactly does it work for when it turns into a hawk? When does it get? How does it get so small?
Yeah.
Well, then I would say, well, fucking Soundwave turns into a boombox, and then he turns into a 60-foot giant robot. So it just works.
Because one way that you can get a lot of the spells to still work related to animals and stuff like that is to say that the core itself has a presence. If that makes sense. Like,
sure.
Like the core itself sends off some kind of wave or presence or something to like the animal that it picks up on, like some kind of calming, I don't know, hum or something.
Sure.
Or like when something casts a spell, like a wisdom saving throw, it's more like trying to jam up the core.
Okay.
Like suggestion is trying to give it a new new executable file to
whatever it's trying to or more or less it's one core trying to influence how another core is interacting with the frame. So it's basically trying to be like, it's basically if I went like this and put my hand over your mic and now I'm assuming control of your thing for a second.
Yeah, I guess my thing is like when a monster tries a wisdom saving throw on you.
Same thing, pretty much, because it knows that the frame is being controlled by a magical brain, basically. So it's basically trying to put its hand in between the brain and the frame.
Yeah, just trying to tap into to that.
I guess now that I'm thinking about this does add the question of where's the core and is that where the crits happen?
Oh, that'd be pretty shitty.
Yeah. Because is it like
I think the core should be in the middle.
Because that's what I keep thinking. But then I'm like, just like, would the frame have a head then? Would it even bother with that? That's why I was thinking like maybe that's the only thing that it doesn't have, and that's where the core goes on. And like,
yeah, I mean, like realistically, your robot wouldn't have a head. The core would probably sit like in the middle of the torso somewhere. Yeah,
and if we're like I'm saying, if we're being actually realistic, this would be a fucking tank because the human body is the shittiest thing is the shittiest thing for fighting. I'd make it a fucking cannon that can roll around. Yeah. I would just take the biggest fucking weapon.
A head also kind of makes sense in the terms of just field of view, maybe because it can swivel and turn.
Right.
I'd still want it to be in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, it feels like it should be in the middle.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm also trying to think about it if we were fucking stupid and we were making giant magical robots, where would we, like, if we're saying, like, all right, we're making the frame first and then we're putting the core in later, I think the head is the only thing that makes sense for it to be, if that makes sense. Yeah. Because that's this tiny... all things considered, it's the tiniest part of our body, but it makes up the most this is the most useful part. This is probably where most of us is our fucking face.
Like it's stored where a brain would be in a person.
Yeah. And like, I'm pretty much like, if you buy a frame, or you buy a generic M.E.G.A, it doesn't have a core, maybe you're just buying something that doesn't have a head. And then once you get the core, it basically looks like a fucking skull with like the big squishy brain part, but it's actually a giant like crystal or however we want to flavor what the core is at a given time. And then like you then put everything else, like when you put the race kit on it, and then you put the
sorry.
Okay. We'll let you cough that way I can take it out.
Sorry, go ahead.
And then you can put the class kit, and that kind of encases it up into its own little head area.
I could go for it being a brain.
Yeah.
Just
because then it kind of
thematically maybe they themed it around nature. Bipedal creatures evolved so they could, keep the brain safe.
Ooh, here we go. Watch this. Or okay, so it's either that or it's the heart, obviously, because then it's like is the pilot the brains and the core the heart? That way the pilot can be in the head, or is the pilot the heart and it goes in the chest? It's kind of my fluff thinking.
So the core would probably be the most protected where the heart is.
Or like,
and you can still just make reasoning for a head just from the need of having a field of view.
Just have something like this.
But I mean, you can still say like, I don't know if I'd want critical hits to attack the core directly.
It could. I think actually then it could be. I think yes, we would want it to be that, but it'd be the same as hitting my heart or my brain. Yeah. Like if in D&D, when you get a critical hit, it's not always necessarily it being a headshot. It can be a major shot to your knee. Like, oh fuck, you just critically shit his knee.
I think if like 2 criticals happen in the same combat scenario, like either like the player fails and then the monster succeeds, or the player fails twice or the monster succeeds twice.
I'm not trying to say like, oh, if a crit hits the core it destroys it. I'm not saying that, but I'm just like in a flavor sense, like if you get hit directly in the, like you get a crit to the chest, like basically like your fucking core just got punched in the face.
Yeah, but I feel like that'd almost give you like 1 failed death throw already.
Nah. I'm just saying that.
Slice.
Yeah. Well, at the same time, if you get crit in the heart, wouldn't that be the same thing as a D&D character?
It would be, yeah.
So, So, do we want to go with that? The core is the heart and the pilot's cockpit is the face.
Yeah, we can go with that.
Because then you can also do things where like the fucking head splits open and that's where you can stand out of it.
And like it makes sense for the pilot to have to go down into the chest cavity to fix it.
Sorry, Dr. James. Fucking
I deal with confused people all day, okay? I can be confused once in a while.
Oh, that was a fucking cool idea. So I'm trying to think, is there anything else that we're gonna have to worry about in a very general sense? Just thinking off the top of our head.
I feel like we got all the general stuff done. I don't know if we need any additional like grapple rules.
Oh fuck.
Because I know someone's gonna want to grapple a monster at some point.
Oh, with the giant robot?
Yeah,
it works the same way.
Yeah,
it's if you're a giant robot fighting a giant monster, you grapple in the same way.
Okay.
But if you're a human trying to grapple onto it,
you just hug onto it.
Yeah, it's gonna be like a climb check at that point. If because you're basically grabbing onto its fucking what is this? Your skin, you're just like grabbing onto that shit. But then
Shadow of Colossus.
What if I as a if I'm in a mega, can I go grapple down to somebody else? Can I just fucking grab them up? I think the easiest way to do that is if you are if we're doing that, it's just
fist
times 4.
Unarmed attack.
Well, I mean, if you're doing a grapple check, it's just whatever you roll times 4. You're probably going to get grabbed by it. The only thing it's going to have to do is try to get the touch on you, which if you're able to outrun it.
I just imagine like a critical fail and it's like smashes you into the ground. Like you're trying to pick up your comrade. It's like,
oh, at that point you just go like this. You just fucking skid into the ground.
Or you just like fucking knock them right in the legs.
Also, we can get this out of the way so that it never comes up. If you have to reach out to catch somebody, we're gonna go
falling damage.
We're gonna go by movie logic, where if my giant metal hand reaches out and grabs you out of your 20-foot fall,
They're designed with pillow functionality.
Yeah, I catch you with like my hand moves down with you to cushion your fall.
You come up and it does.
Because I've seen that so many times. I watch fucking Transformers. Oh yeah, Optimus, thanks for catching me. You're with your giant metal hand that you
all my bones.
Yeah, you shattered me into a million pieces because you jumped from one building, smashed my fucking ass out of the sky after I had already fallen 40 feet.
We could do falling damage if you want.
Nah, I don't want that. Because I'm just thinking about like, okay, so we're playing and like, I don't know, Robbie ejects out and he accidentally flies off the fucking, he's going to go flying off a cliff. And you go, fuck. And like, I drop my shield and I go to catch him. I go, well, technically he was flying at this thing.
Another rule question. Can multiple players fit in one mech
Yes,
Okay.
but only one pilot at a time.
Okay. Another question: if 2 players are within the same mech, does the pilot get free help, like free advantage on checks and skills?
Interesting.
Because they have a co-pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
I say yeah. Maybe we can make it. I think the issue would come that there's not really a place for the person to help at if it's in a cockpit. Because again, I'm just thinking like Gundam style.
Well, it could be like tactical advice, and maybe they can use their skills in a different way. Like I don't know, I'm trying to think. It could just be more like advice.
Maybe.
Or they could like for example, they can monitor like the view while you monitor the attack or something like that.
I'm trying to think. Do we want to maybe if we do want to avoid that, do we want to say that the cockpit doesn't allow a second person in it? Like basically the only place for a second person to be is in the core cavity.
We could say that, and that it gives you an advantage on like death saving throws.
Sure, that'll work.
Yeah,
because he's in there like doing whatever.
Yeah, he's ready to attend it.
And I think we can do a maximum of probably 3 people to a bot. Because there's one person in the pilot area, one person in the core cavity, and one person like in like I was gonna say in like the whatever ladder space in between.
Yeah.
And that person can't help with anything. He's in like storage.
Well, that person would be in the way of the other 2.
It is. Yeah.
So that would
fuck. He absolutely is in the way. He absolutely is in the way. But that's more like shit. We need to rescue the president. Put him in the cavity. Oh shit! My robot blew up. All right, you're getting in the cavity too.
Yeah, I'd say 2 gives you an advantage with death saving throws, and 3 may even be disadvantage.
It might be
because no one can get around and do their thing right.
Exactly. I wouldn't say it gives you disadvantage, but it would definitely be like if you try to go down and do something to the core, he would be in the way and it would take you an extra round. Some shit like that.
Yeah.
And that's something you can freestyle on the fly. But we'll just put this big asterisk. There's 3 people maximum, and the third person probably is going to hamper in some way.
Mm-hmm.
If that comes up in your game, play it as a DM would. If it doesn't, good.
Good.
I guess this is all, we're pretty much all going flavor at this point. As far as opening wise, I think that the easiest way is like probably just that the fucking mech or the mega swallows you, and then you go like it opens up its mouth, and you go into there.
Yeah.
And then like shit like that.
I mean, it could just like completely like prayer pose, and then like the head can open. Mm-hmm. You can just like walk in.
Oh yeah, like it just lays down.
Yeah.
Or it can just be like. Because I'm thinking, so if your head's probably about how much of your head do you think you?
What I was thinking is that like the head is completely down and the skull opens up. So not the mouth. It's like
like the brain cavity opens.
Yeah. So that way it can just like be like a staircase leading up, and then you can sit down, and then as it rotates upward, the seat like rotates with it or something.
That'd be cool. Yeah. That's all flavor.
Yeah, I don't know. That's probably something that the DM can make up.
That could be something that each player does at a time. Like
you just take a very long spiral staircase from the foot.
Yeah, you get up on the foot and you. Like I watch so much
elevator music.
I watch so much. What is it? Fucking Power Rangers. Power Rangers has no idea how anybody gets into a Zord. They just say that you do. Like I've seen so many times or I've seen like 3 or 4 times where somebody will jump onto the shoulder and then they walk behind the head and then they're just in the robot. Like they don't say where the opening is. It's just in there.
Yeah, you find your way in somehow. Mm-hmm. You squeeze your way in. Still doing temporary hit points.
Yeah, temporary hit points kind of makes sense as like a overcharging your core kind of thing. I feel like that's kind of it, right?
Yeah. Are we saying that? No, never mind. I'm trying to think like Like, yeah, never mind. It's a discussion for when we go over the cleric class.
Okay. So I think it's a pretty concise part 2. Thank you all for showing up for these first little initial bits for the 3.5 mega rules. Just a general overview.
5.0?
5.0?
Were you saying 3rd edition?
Whatever. It's 5th edition.
Yeah.
Whatever fucking 3 seconds ago Blake said is a fucking idiot. I don't know
he's
how
a
he
jerk.
thought that.
Forget about that guy. We're on to 5.0, Blake.
5.0. So yeah. We'll see you next time. We'll see you next time.
Next time? Question mark?